You're the first guest to the podcast now, to the Runway Ventures podcast here. But really appreciate your time here today. Could you just, share more about your background and your company?
I started my first business at 18, 19 years old. Fast forward, I've done a few businesses from the tech world and also from the traditional businesses, paint, printing, construction related. So in Asia, when gifting is even a deeper part of our culture, but yet there's no digitalized way to do this at scale.
How do you actually compete in this overcrowded space?
So that's most people looking at that market. How can we make gifting beautiful? Whereas we look at it from another perspective. How can we make gifting work for you? When we say work for you means we turn gifting from a cost center into a revenue center. Where everybody is focusing on making gifting look great, we focus on making gifting work. So how can we combine quality gifts with technology to allow someone to send gifting one to many with ease?
What's one piece of advice that you give to aspiring founders?
Where everybody want to do things the proper way. This has to be done properly, that has to be done properly, PDPA this, PDPA that. Look, nobody cares. That's the bottom line. If your company dies, nobody cares. If your company make it, everything you say suddenly becomes gold mine. To grow a business, main thing is you got to be resourceful.
If you enjoyed this podcast, don't forget to subscribe on YouTube for more. Also, if you want to become better founders by learning from founder and failed startup stories, don't forget to subscribe to my free newsletter. Check it out at therunway.ventures. With that, I bring you Wenhao, the co-founder of Smilie. Let's get to it. Thank you so much for being here and welcome to our podcast. Interestingly, today is our, you're the first guest to the podcast now, to the Runway Ventures podcast here. But really appreciate your time here today. By the way, in case you're watching this, if you don't know, Wenhao is the co-founder at Smilie, right? The current startup that's running. It is a B2B engagement platform designed to foster key impactful moments through corporate gifting with a personalized approach to build client relationships. So Smilie is backed by Antler and notable angel investors, including, founders from Circles.Life, Union Gas and Pickupp, etc. And is actually the first, if I'm not wrong, the first and leading platform that helps B2B companies turn customer engagement into valuable touchpoints for customer retention and growth. I mean, there's so much stuff to talk about Smilie. I'll let you share more later. But before we dive into that, could you just, share more about your background and your company?
Thanks, Edmund, for having us today, right? Having me today. Yeah, so just a quick introduction of myself. I always tell people I'm born in Shanghai, moved here at the age of 3. Parents wanted me to get a better education system, and the education system here is so great that I got expelled twice from school, right? So out of desperation, I started my first business at 18, 19 years old. Fast forward, I've done a few businesses from the tech world and also from the traditional businesses, paint, printing, construction related, right? And I always realized that out of all these things, it wasn't just the business strategies or the funding, etc., that allowed the business to propel, right? It was also a lot to do with scoring cookie points at the right moments with the right people. So after all these years, I realized, what if I can turn this strategy into a more structured and scalable way for people to grow their business? And thus, I started Smilie. Right, so Smilie was born out of me doing it for myself and having that ability to scale my own company using gifting as a core to build relationship. Right, so I saw in the US there was very established players like Sentoso, Anlis, and etc. So in Asia, when gifting is even a deeper part of our culture, but yet there's no digitalized way to do this at scale. And yet the market is so fragmented, right? You see, look at US, everybody is in one country, although there's 50 over states. But in Southeast Asia, you have Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, etc. How do we actually, combine everything into one singular platform so that you can send a gift to someone in Singapore, right? Send a different team to someone in Malaysia, right? Send something else to Indonesia, and also get through all the different customs. So that's how we started the company.
Wow. I mean, you mentioned that industry is very fragmented. I believe that it is also a bit overcrowded. So what makes you think that, given this fragmented industry, that how do you actually compete in this overcrowded space?
See, there's many ways to look at businesses today, right? I would say everybody looks at every industry as being fragmented. There's too many players. And I think in today's world, every industry is competitive. Everybody say, AI is so sexy today. But even AI is competitive. What I like to believe is what will not change in the next 5 to 10 years. right? So if something doesn't change in the next 5 to 10 years, no matter how competitive it is, at least you know that the consumer behavior wouldn't change. That's one part of the better one. And I personally believe that in the next 5 to 10 years, people will still be sending gifts. This part of the culture will not run away in Southeast Asia, at least. Right? No matter how much compliance you can put in, people will still send a gift to someone over mooncakes, is it over cookies during CNY, or a simple gift during Christmas. So that part we accepted. The next part is a traditional business. For the last 40, 50 years, there hasn't been any changes, right? You have all the regional players and existing players here. They've done well, right? They have grown into 10, 20, $30 million companies. But one thing we have started to hear is that everybody says, please don't send me a hamper. It's very old school. It's very ugly, right? And the moment you hear that, and yet people are continuously spending the same amount of budgets to send gifts, you know there's room for disruption. So that's one part of it, that we can disrupt quality gifts, right? Using quality gifts, we can disrupt the old players by just doing better gifts. And the old players do not understand the change of consumer behaviors today, right? In our age group, to us, we don't really like New Moon, for example, right? Whereas the older folks who love New Moon, we don't care. We probably like Crafty, we like Irving's, we like TWG. So they will not understand our behavior trends. So that's one part of the business. The other part is technology, right? I always like to think that I will never be the smartest guy in the room, and I will never be the smartest, best guy in the world of software technology. Now, if I were to put myself in the world of AI and deep tech, I would definitely do. I hardly know how to code, right? I know a bit of HTML, CSS, and PHP, right? There's no way I can compete with the top guys out there. But in the world of corporate gifting, where most guys don't even understand technology, suddenly I have an edge. So how can we combine quality gift with technology to allow someone to send gifting one to many with ease? You see, everybody go into the gifting space thinking of doing consumer gifting, right? How can I send the nicest bouquet of flowers? How can I send, recently they told me to send a diaper cake, right? So that's most people looking at that market. How can we make gifting beautiful? Whereas we look at it from another perspective. How can we make gifting work for you? Right? When we say work for you means we turn gifting from a cost center into a revenue center. Where everybody is focusing on making gifting look great, we focus on making gifting work. And working means you want to send a gift to 100 people in 5 different countries. How can we simplify that with just a click of a button? So we are very focused in that area of the business, right? Just that it happened to include gifting as part of that whole customer journey. So that's how we aim to stand out.
Well, this is pretty interesting because you mentioned 2 points here, right? One is the consumer behavior, the shifting of the consumer behavior. Second is the tech part. And somehow Smilie really just stand in between to tackle these 2 main things and to revolutionize how the gifting industry actually works, especially in today's world. I just want to double click on the ROI side, right? You mentioned that, whenever, companies turn to give something to their partners or vendors or clients, how do you actually measure the ROI of that?
It's quite tricky to fully measure everything, right? Because in the end, we are not fully integrated to a whole CRM or sales journey. But how do we quantify some of the things is that, look, is today, let's say, example, a traditional way of doing gifting is I will send out 100 mooncakes. I have no idea who has received a mooncake, who has gotten out of it, and at which journey do we engage in. Do we just wait for mooncake festival? Okay, 100 mooncakes, out it goes. But what if we change the mindset to, example, let's say today my client is Singtel, just for example, right? Also, they are not my client. So someone renews a broadband plan, right? And they always send out a free, today they send out a phone case or upgrade or whatever, right? And so Singtel, StarHub, all these big boys, they do it. But why can't the smaller players understand that gifting is actually crucial when you get it right during a customer journey? Not when you want to send it, but when it's meaningful for the client. Example, today someone listens to a podcast, right? And they become a subscriber. Now, do you have the budget to say, look, can I entice them with something? Now, it doesn't make sense because subscription is just free of charge. But if let's say they sign up to something, they say they sign up to be your loyal customer, right? First year subscription, second year subscription. By the time they reach the 3rd year, could you send them a box of, let's say, cookies? to say thank you for being my third year loyal subscriber. Right? To them, that builds loyalty with you. But nobody looks at it from this perspective, you see. They just say, okay, this year, Mooncake Festival, let's send out 50 mooncakes. And then you go to someone's office, you see your mooncake with another 35 other vendors' mooncakes there. How do you stand out? Right? So there's zero ROI at all. Why? Because the client don't even remember who sent out mooncake. So my thing is very simple. Gifting is all about psychology. Right? You want people to, in some ways, feel compelled to return you that favor. Right? It has to have that intention that we want someone to feel compelled to return us that favor because we send a gift. Now, how can we kickstart? How can we ignite that emotion, the psychology part of it, so that you feel compelled to return us that favor? Instead of me sending a mooncake just to say thank you. There's no ROI at all. Yeah.
I love that. Basically, instead of, using gifting to, I don't know, get something or sell something, we just tap into the customer journey to build and loyalty to stand out. And in psychological sense, it's kind of like a reciprocal nature, right? If I send something to someone, of course the ROI might not be immediate, tangible ROI, but then when people receive those gifts, they will say, oh wow, it's very, so nice of you. And then, I don't know, the relationship becomes stronger, the bond, the trust and all this. Those are more intangible stuff, right? And it's important in business.
Of course. Exactly. Example, right? If your friend hits a $1 million revenue, right, you send them something to say, congrats on $1 million revenue, right? And imagine you're a payment gateway, right? It's a surprise, right? And you have the exact data, you see, to know that that customer, that shop, hits a $1 million revenue, which is a celebratory moment for you, right? But it's also a simple, we say, data point to know that at $1 million revenue, that customer can actually afford my upselling, cross-selling solutions now, right? But instead of me picking up a phone call to say, hey, Edmund, congrats on 100,000 subscriber. By the way, do you want to sign a new plan? Right, it's very transactional, right? But I say something to say, hey, Edmund, congrats on it. So YouTube does it so well, right? They send you all these plaques with, congrats, gold, diamonds, silver, whatever it is.
But by the way, this reminds me of Aspire sending, whenever some startup founders raise certain round, right? Aspire will send, I don't know, a blog.
Yeah. So Aspire is one of our clients, right? They do many kind of gifting. And one of the gifting campaigns we do for them is Proseccos. Right? Whenever someone raises a round of funding, and they use us to send a bottle of Prosecco to congratulate these founders successfully raising a round. And from there, they engage in certain conversations with them.
Back to the very beginning when you and your co-founder were building Smilie, right? What were the biggest challenges that you face in getting the company off the ground?
I think I insulted the industry a bit, if I were to put it this way, right? Because I always believe that tech is a very wonderful layer on top of a traditional business, right? I'm not saying that you can't do deep tech in Southeast Asia, but I believe most of the industries here today is built on a very well structured layer of technology on an old school business model. Example, Grab is actually logistics, right? If you think about it from a very simple perspective, it's moving someone from point A to point B. Just that instead of a parcel, it's someone, right? There's no real deep tech involved, but it's built on an infrastructure layer in the industry. And there's many of the big players here, Ninja Van, Caro, etc. So that's how I feel it. But the infrastructure, sometimes you don't need to own it. You can leverage on someone owning this infrastructure. So I thought, okay, gifting is pretty much mature here. If I build this tech layer and I license it out to all the existing players here, they should understand it and they should be able to leverage on our platform to scale their business further. What I didn't expect is everybody thought of us as a competitor, number one. And number two, nobody even understood what we were trying to do. Right? They see gifting as portable chargers, tote bags, caps, t-shirts. You tell them to digitalize it, to turn it into data points so that you can sell more gifts. They say, I don't need to. I just sell my t-shirts. I'm very happy already. So then came the challenge that if we cannot sell the gift, we cannot push the software to clients. So then the challenge came, we had to build our own infrastructure as a gifting business first, before we can even leverage on the software and tools. So we became from tech big, gift small, to the gift became super big, and the tech became a very thin layer. So that was the biggest challenge. But to build our own technology and invest in it is not cheap as well, right? So it was us investing two parts of the business at the same time. One part is infrastructure, finding the right vendors, building the right SKU with our vendors, stocking it in our warehouse, right? We've got to open our own warehousing, infrastructure, etc. So that's one part of the business, learning and making a lot of mistakes, right? It just happened that I have a background in printing that allow us to do it a little bit easier. And the other part is technology. I think we all accept that there's no way we can build any software at one go, right? One time is never the right time. So rebuilding it, reiterating it, every time we reiterate is cost, right? We hire our own in-house team, there's cost as well, it's not cheap. So that's the biggest challenge, right? It took us a good 1.5 years to understand how to execute it, right? And in between this whole journey, many times I think we always felt like giving up.
So, to my understanding is basically you started off by focusing on the tech part, and then you realize that tech is not the focus of most, SMEs or companies out there. That's why now you double down on, strengthen and focus on the gifting business, the ops, the warehousing, all this stuff, building the infra there, and then basically, I guess the vision is the same, but just that you are hiding the vision behind that, and then focus on the
Absolutely.
somewhere I saw you post on LinkedIn sometimes ago that you mentioned Smilie was on the brink of shutting down sometime back ago. Like, what were the warning signs that, made you realize things were not working?
I think I saw the warning signs very, very early on, actually early of 2023. So there was a joke, right? We did. So we started the business, I started the business end of 2022, and I officially started running it with my co-founder mid of 2023. So we started to have our first sales coming in about August, September of 2023, and had a decent Christmas that year. So I told my guys, I said, look, our aim is to sell 1,000 boxes during CNY. And if we cannot even hit 1,000 boxes, we are screwed. We barely hit 10% of the target. So I already knew we are screwed, right? It's just how do we find our way through after that. And very early on, we realized that the market is not accepting what we're trying to sell to them. And they like what we sell to them, right? As an idea, but no one was using it. So it's a joke that we always, me and my co-founder always laugh, we say we have zero churn rate. All our clients are always on our app, pays our subscription, but nobody uses it. I don't know if it's a good or a bad problem, A good problem, nobody churns. Bad problem, nobody uses. Yeah, so we're stuck in between, right? So that was the whole of 2023, right? We try to do many things, right? Everybody say AI. We say, okay, let's try AI. Let's try build a recommender. Someone keys in something. I want to buy a gift for my friend, and I can start recommending you ideas, right? Then I start to realize one thing. Even we don't know what to give to our friend. What makes you think the AI will know what to give to our friend? How do we even get the algorithm out of it? So we scrape the idea as well. And then I think it was a fortunate thing that I met someone close to tell me that, look, Wenhao, in the world of gifting, is gifting first and then software. If you can't get the gifting right, the technology will not help you to take off. So I said, okay, perhaps that's the way to go. So we doubled down a lot at that period around mid of 2023 to try to do gifting. But gifting is so huge, right? And coming from two folks that have no idea how to even do gifting, where do we start? Right? Don't say gifting. Just in the whole corporate gifting alone, there's portable chargers, tote bags, umbrella, caps, etc. And then we go to gifting, there's flowers, right? There's cakes. There's so many things for so many different festivals. Where do we start? Right. So I always believe that I don't like to compete with people on price. I think that's the stupidest thing to do business. I think we compete on business models. So how do we come up with something new in a market that's already so mature? How can we leverage on new technology? And when I see new technology, I don't mean just, software. I mean things like, there's a ninja van out there today that created logistic at such a cost because of certain infrastructure and technology that they built, that the old school gifting players have not yet used their solutions to lower costs of logistics. Can we leverage on that example, right? So with that, it allows us to lower certain logistics and building of a hamper cost from $30 all the way down to just $5. Right? So that's already $25 in difference in cost. Am I fighting in price? No, my margins are healthy still, right? But my clients benefit on it. Next, how can we allow customization of certain gift boxes without 100, 500,000 MOQ? Same thing, we adopt new machines, new technology that the old school players doesn't do. So that allowed us to also go and compete with the market. So it took us a good 3 to 4 months to figure out how do we want to position ourselves in that crowded market of corporate gifting. And after that, we realized that, okay, we're going to position ourselves in a way to focus on clients that want to stand out because they want a box to personalize to them. Instead of the gift, they want their own logos to be on the box, etc. But in a cost-efficient, scalable manner. I don't pay $50, $100, $200 to have a customized box. Can I just do it at $30? I wish to customize 500 boxes of it. Can you support us? Naturally, in the whole market, nobody do such quality at such prices. And we say, why not? If our margins are healthy, we support it. And then we use our own technology to help them send out to 500 different locations within 1 to 2 days. Because you see, it's so stupid, right? That a big client can buy mooncakes from, let's say, Raffles Hotel. And most of the time, these mooncakes will go to a client's office, correct? But no, Raffles Hotel have to send to the corporate client's office first, and then from there, they disseminate out to 500 different locations. Why that step, Why can't it be from hotel straight to the client's office? That 500 locations. Why do I need to go through another intermediary? And Raffles Hotel says, I don't care about 500 locations. That's on your own. And the company that wants to send to 500 locations, they have no idea how to do it as well. So they come to people like us today and say, Wenhao, can you help us to send to 500 locations? So whereas that became our edge in the market, combining the 3PL in a world of gifting that is actually very fragmented. I only handle the gift, you handle the packaging, and you handle the logistics. Nobody does it all at once. So that's how we slowly figure out the business. And at about October, we figure out a bit of the market and we scale from there.
Okay, you mentioned quite a few times about the industry big players. They're not doing this, they're not doing that, stuff like that. Just out of curiosity, what's stopping them from doing the things that you are doing now? Why aren't they doing this if it lowers their cost? It makes sense from the business standpoint.
It's very simple. If they want to do what we do, they kill off their current existing business. And that's what's stopping them from changing. Right? If today they allow customers to pick something that's 30% cheaper in cost, why would someone pick something that's more expensive? But that will actually kill the whole infrastructure of the existing business. Right? For a company that's doing 20, 30 million a year, it's very tricky to just change your whole business model just like that. But from us, we are building the infrastructure up. So it's a very different way of looking at business.
Interesting. Well, I think back then, I heard from you saying that also on LinkedIn posts, I think you make a tough decisions that you got to lay off some of your team members, if I'm not wrong, right? I'm just curious, what was the experience like and how do you actually navigate that difficult conversation with your team members?
I think laying off people is never easy, right? It's not my first business. I've laid off people before, COVID, etc. Yeah, I think it's more about transparency. I think that's the number one thing. Being very transparent about where the company is, where's our runway. And I told our whole team, if I'm lost, there's no point in keeping you guys here. But I see most people want to keep staff with them, right? And they say, I will never want to let them go. I always believe when they come to you, you're boring that time, right? And you hope to pass them on with something better. And they go to the next place with better knowledge. Or if I have no knowledge for you right now and we are lost at where we are, what's the point in keeping all of you here? It's not about me paying you your salary. I think that's the stupidest way to look at things, right? I think everybody has tons of opportunity out there. Why do I lock you in with us if we are not growing? So it's all being very transparent with them. I told them straight, I said, look, we are heading nowhere for now. We don't know where we are going. I don't know what direction it is. So I'd rather you guys find other opportunities out there, right? We'll keep you guys for another 1 month to 2 months while you guys find opportunities. Thank you for the opportunity and the time with us. So that's how we did the whole exercise. We did everything within 1 month.
And did that happen somewhere around mid-2023?
No, mid-2024. Mid-2024.
Oh, so it's after you pivoted, focusing on the gifting for another year, then?
No, it was before we figured out where to go. Yeah, it was before we figured out where to go. So like Christmas 2023 was alright, right? But CNY 2024 was bad.
Okay. Well, and then you lay off the whole team back then, or it's...
Yeah, I mean, some of them left for their own and all. So the whole team of about, back then was about 11 or 12, I think.
Crazy, man. I'm sure it was very emotional.
All right. I think after a while, I won't say you get numb to it, but you understand it's best for the company, right? I always believe company first. And I always tell my co-founder, if I'm not the right guy for the company, then I'll quit as well.
Looking back, after all these tough period, journey and experiences, like what were the three biggest mistakes that you think you make when building Smilie? And what do you learn from them?
I don't know if it's three or more. I'm just going to say a few things off the top of my mind, right? I think the first challenge was hiring too fast. I think this is my fourth company, right? Every business I told myself to hire slower. Every business I make the same mistake. Hiring too fast. Before you figure out where your market is, we already started to hire too. And personally feel that I wasn't strict enough in who we hired. We could have been more anal about it, right? I think I'm still too lax. Back then, I always have a certain belief that whoever we hire, especially the first few people, have to be able to conquer mountains on their own. Not me pointing at you to say that's the mountain and climb it, but it's you figure out where's the mountain and conquer it on your own, right? If you don't have that ability, I don't think you should be the first few people in the team. So I think I lacked a lot on that rule when we started to hire initially. But that was one of the biggest mistakes, right? What else? We didn't spend too much money. We had a small little office, so that wasn't really a mistake. We probably built something too clunky initially, hoping that the market was there. That was a certain mistake as well. We could have done it in a very simple, scrappy way, but instead we invested $300,000 to build something that nobody used. On the hindsight, people used, that wasn't a mistake, right? So no one knows, right? So that was another mistake that we made, that we realized that we should have started perhaps with infrastructure, saying that we were a traditional business, doing gifting, acquire certain clients first, and then educate them with our solutions, instead of doing it the other way around and jumping straight to the end goal. That was one of the biggest mistakes. It was more of an execution mistake. I underestimated how backward the whole industry is. But I thought everybody is forward thinking with COVID. You guys understand, digital gifting, I can do it at scale, I can give you the redemption, I want ROI. But instead, people still old school here. People still think of corporate gifting as caps, shirts, t-shirts, mugs, jugs, whatever not. Instead of, how can I do something, when I send a certain gift out? How do I control the pre-gifting? How do I control post-gifting? Right? And how can I extract value out of each part of this user journey? And not just, I send Edmund a cookie, that's it.
What do you mean by pre and post gifting? Because this term seems a bit new to me though. I thought it's only send gifting to a company, yeah.
We always say pre-post gifting because it's all pre-post event, right? They need a certain event to create this journey, correct? So example, let's say financial advisor, right? So we deal with a lot of financial advisors as our clients. They are hosting a certain event, cooking class, right? So most people will say, look, I host a cooking class, I invite 30 clients down. That's all. What more can I do? What if 2 weeks before the cooking class, I send each customer a personalized apron with your own name on it? Would that hype up the event more? And today I tell you, invite your friends down for the cooking class and they receive their own personalized apron. Now, is that pre-event, using gifting to work for you to bring out their journey better, right? Post-event, after, let's say today you're doing a training workshop, 2 months later, you send them a box with a cookie or a book written by you, and it says, how have your life transformed after the coaching session with us? Now, is that post-event? With a certain brochure inside that says, if you have benefited from it, would you like to introduce us to your team, or your HR, or your friend? That's post, correct? Or most people don't see it that way, you see. Most people say, okay, on the day of the training, I give you a book, thank you for coming. Where's the ROI in that? So to us, we are very particular about helping our clients understand this user journey. And then plugging us into this user journey to make it as simple as possible so they can extract the most ROI out of it.
Interesting. It seems to me that you have to spend a lot of time educating your clients. I mean, this is just my assumption. Maybe you have to spend a lot of time to educate them about the whole gifting process, the workflow, the pre, during, and the post gifting part of thing. Is that something that you have to spend a lot of time on to educate the clients or prospects to close the deals? Or
Today is getting better. So we always feel that our marketing is to educate our clients. So we share a lot on LinkedIn, on social media, to let people know that gifting can work for you. Right? It's not a cost center. And you just got to understand your user journey better. And then when one person sees ROI from gifting, other people follow.
just on the side of the mistakes part, right? When you share about the three mistakes, the one that I capture is, hire too fast. Second is building something too clunky. Then the third one is, focusing on the right thing first instead of the tech. Um, how did you and your co-founder deal with these mistakes together as a team? Because I believe this one is something that, oh shit, happened. Then have to fix it or learn from it. And how do you and your co-founder communicate that and work as a team to come out from it?
I think we share a similar ideology. Mistakes can be made quick. Everybody makes mistakes. But making a decision quick is the most important thing. Once you make a certain mistake, or once we see a certain market, you make a quick decision, yes or no. There's no point in going around and say, oh, no, this is a mistake. We should hire too fast, blah, blah, blah. If you hire too fast, you realize, team is too much, right? Then there's really no, it's just, what's the benefit of these two actions, right? We weigh out, right? And in terms of team, it's very straightforward, runway, right? How much runway do you have left? If the runway is getting bad, cut, right? If sales is not coming in, it means we build something wrong, right? And if execution is not executing the way that we feel people should be reacting to us, or maybe we are hearing different data from our customers, then it's really just about finding out where it is, right? So both of us have different skill sets. We figure out things our own ways, and we try. I think the key thing is speed, If you're willing to try things quick, there's always a way to capture the market, right? To figure out what went wrong and what's going right. But if it takes you 3 to 4 months to figure out what is going wrong and another 3 to 4 months to build something again, you're dead from day one again.
I really admire the fact that, after you have done the layoff, cutting the team significantly, and the most fascinating thing is you managed to scale everything back up and 100,000 on a monthly sales. What were the key changes that you think make this possible?
I think at one point, first if I say this, some of our investors might not be happy to hear it. But the truth is, at one point, we also realized that the market is getting bad for VC funding. Right, and I think everybody knows this. So with that, I say, let's run it instead of from a perspective of trying to get this to scale as quick as possible, which is software technology focus, to how can we make this to have a very stable foundation to survive and hyper scale it when the opportunity comes. So it was a very big change in mindset. From me running it like a tech business to me running like my own printing, painting business. Right? I've tried both. So I knew how to shift the mindset. So it was a 180-degree shift right away to say revenue, margins, profitability. That's the key focus. Where's the revenue? Gift. Where's the margins? Okay, this is what we're going to do. We're not going to hire. We're going to do a lot of things on our own. And then we build certain relationships with suppliers, logistic partners to ensure we have a very healthy gross profit margin and net profit margin. And then we pick the right opportunity with the right festivals and the right clientele, and we hyperscale it. Right. So we were very fortunate that. So a lot of people see us as January having a very good month. What they don't see is we actually laid the groundwork since October. Actually, even since August, we laid the groundwork. Me and my co-founder will figure out how do we do gifting first, number one. And once we roughly got the gifting right, how do we stand out with low MOQ customization? And then how do we stand out with high quality gift? And we figure all that out within the first 1-2 months. We did a very simple basic testing with Mooncake Festival. It was so ugly, but we actually got it out. And then we say, where is the clientele that nobody sees? Right, I'm not going to mention these clientele online, right? And then we anchor into those clientele. And nobody cared for them. And today, they take up a biggest chunk of our clients.
How do you find these people, the clients? Is that on LinkedIn or your network?
It's everywhere. LinkedIn, networking, right? And joining other sessions, friends. I put it this way. I think the biggest takeaway, if you want to be I won't say a successful entrepreneur because I don't say that myself is successful, but to grow a business, main thing is you got to be resourceful, right? I think a lot of people ignore this, right? Everybody want to do things the proper way. This has to be done properly, that has to be done properly, PDPA this, PDPA that. Look, nobody cares, man. That's the bottom line. If your company dies, nobody cares. If your company make it, everything you say suddenly becomes gold mine. Wow, you sell Oreo, Cheerio, and you build Airbnb. If they didn't make it, people will call them idiots selling, Right. So that's a hard truth to it. So why care so much? Right. I think the best thing today is everything is online. You can find everything. You just need to dare to break some rules along the way and try your way out. And if you're willing to break some rules, use your head and knock on the wall a few times, I'm pretty sure you can find your clients.
Amazing. Resourcefulness. Yeah, I think a lot of, even myself, I'm also learning how to be resourceful sometimes when it comes to, growing my newsletters or all these. Sometimes I might fall into a trap of thinking, oh, I need to maybe have a proper process or what before all the thing comes in. And I have to remind myself not to over-optimize or over-engineering too much and just get things done.
There's no perfection, right? I always believe there's no perfection. There's only execution, right? A lot of my friends and mentors tell me, Wenhao, sometimes you need to plan more before you execute. You need to plan more. My take is, how do I really know what to plan if I don't even know my business? I'm not in the business of gifting. Until the day we execute, I have really no idea what to plan, right? So we execute first. Of course, the biggest difference is I execute, I plan quick once I learn what new data we take in, and we pivot fast if we have to. The biggest problem with people is they execute quick and then they just delete it for another 3 to 6 months and they die. They are not hard on themselves to admit that this might be a wrong move, this might be a right move, this is actually going nowhere. Whereas we are very hard on ourselves. We always put ourselves as a neutral. We say, what are we doing not right? And not what we are doing right. Right? So the moment you start asking yourself what we are doing not right, actually a lot of things start to come out. Right? This is not right. That is not right. Now, how do we fix certain parts? But if we don't start to do, how do we know what we are doing not right? Right? It's all just theory then.
As a founder, right, how do you cultivate this? I think it's a skill set of self-awareness / self-analysis, right? When you do something and sometimes people tend to just do things without reflecting too much and not, fixing their problems and then improving that. How do you cultivate that self-awareness or self-analysis skill set?
To be fair, I'm still learning on how to train people to do this, right? I've always had this struggle to get people to understand this. Then again, I believe that I'm wired this way due to my background, right? I was desperate to start a business, but I had no other choice. And when you start from nothing at the age of 18, you're forced to be very careful and be quick on your feet. If not, you're dead, right? I started with no money, no resources, right? I started by selling phone cases, right? From selling phone case to building my own first software business without knowing how to write a single line of code at 19, right? To raising money with my first investors, $250,000 at 20, right? It's just pure quick, right? Going out there, being desperate enough to try out everything. And once you learn something, you just adopt it right away. Right? So my co-founder always likes to say, I'm very good at copying people. But it's true, right?
Yeah.
Because if you see someone do something, why the hell you want to try it yourself? Copy the thing, right? And adapt it, tweak it to how you want to execute it your own way. Right? If someone jumps into a hole and says, wow, this hole is 5 meters deep and spends another 1 year crawling out, why do I follow him and jump down? Right? I go around the way, right? So I love to see what people do successfully, right? And we adapt to it. And that's being resourceful, right? To see what works out there and we do it in our own ways. And not just to be stubborn enough to say, I have to do it my way. I got to figure out myself.
So I guess the takeaway here is basically not to always reinvent the wheel, just copy what works and then fits into your business or workflow and then just optimize and improve from there.
Yeah, I believe everybody has a very different way of looking at business, right? If you don't have, please don't start a business, right? Like my way of looking at business is very simple. Every business has to be recurring. Every business has to be able to scale without the costs going up at the same time, right? And it's not price sensitive. And everybody likes to say, Wenhao, that's a tech business. I say, you sure or not? There's an insurance business also, If tomorrow the policies goes up in price, are you going to change your policy? No, right? Every year it's recurring, isn't it? And there's a reason why I pick Prudential and not another brand, right? Yeah. So it's not that it has to be a tech business to fit into the mold of a business model. But if you don't have a certain business model in mind, or this is my strength, I'm going to adopt this business model into anywhere I do things, then there's no point in starting a business, man. So for us, it's looking at what people did right in other businesses that worked. I take the good things and I adopt it into my own way in my current business, fitting into these three key molds.
I love it when you say, in your business, I think you mentioned this some time ago that our client's client is our client, and I really love that quote. Like, how has this? I'm just curious. How has this principle shaped your approach in terms of customer experience and growth? Like, what does that mean? This quote, yeah.
Why do I say this quote is more for our own team than for our clients? Right? Why do I say so? Is I always tell our guys, if you're not proud to send out something, you will receive it. Don't send it out. Right? If you see that the box is damaged, or the sticker is not nice, or this cookie is crumpled, you're not like to receive it as a gift, right? So if you're not like to receive it as a gift, don't send it out. To me, it's the easiest way to have a certain SOP and a certain quality throughout the whole company. To always see that our client's client is our client. Focus on that, make it better, and our clients would appreciate what we do. Right? We don't serve our client, we serve our client's client. That's always what we aim to do better. Right? How do we make our client's client happy? Right? And there can be many ways. How can we make our client's client happier with better gifting experience? How can we make our client's clients happier with better packaging, with faster speed of delivery, with better experience in redemption? Because in the end, our clients will appreciate and spend with us more when their clients go to them and say thank you. So that is the easiest way for us to tell our guys, that's where the core business is. That's how we're going to grow our business. That's where we're going to focus our quality, right?
Absolutely love it. I think the obsession with the customer's experience is the key here. Like how you are able to outbid, so many big players, big guys out there.
We are a very small player. I like to say we are a very small player that our competitors don't even know we exist.
You have started Smilie for, I guess, 2 years or 3 years now.
2 years
And
each.
there's 2 years. 2 years.
Yeah, 2 years each should be. Yep.
How do you personally cope with so many, ups and downs personally, throughout this whole journey? Because there's so many dark period and times. Like, how do you cope with that as a founder?
I think I'm fortunate enough that I've went through this journey in the last 10 years, right? I always like to tell people I sold my first business at the age of 21, right? At a certain point in life, money didn't mean that much to me anymore. And at a certain point, I've also lost pretty much everything. COVID almost wiped me out because my businesses was in construction and all. And before COVID, life was great. So I've went through ups and downs pretty much twice in my life. A business is just another mode for me today. I don't really feel it emotionally. I get annoyed by a lot of things in the business for sure. When things don't go my way, when we are not growing the way we grow, I get annoyed. Do I get really emotionally uptight and all over it? Not so much. I feel that everything's within our control, right? So why get emotions involved? If the business is not growing, it must be something that we are not doing right. So I don't get so affected by it today. I can't say the same when it happened to me the first time at age of 23, right? But today is much better. I think it's focused on the energy on better things, right? It's either you close down the business or you spend energy to figure out how we're going to survive and grow the business, right? If you accept that you made a mistake, then why feel upset about it, right?
Well, it sounds to me that, I don't know if there's this saying like, if things are bad, maybe they're not too bad. If things are good, maybe they're not too good. Just keep a, neutral mindset to...
Yeah. It's just a number that the revenue goes up and down, right? Just think of it this way. Let's say I'm the biggest company doing corporate gifting in Singapore. I'm doing 50 million a year. And tomorrow, our dear government comes out with a new rule. Compliance. No company can send or receive any corporate gift. Game over also. Can I control? I cannot. Out of my control. Right? Should I feel upset about it? Perhaps. But that's just life. So on the good days, celebrate a little. On the bad days, don't be too sad.
Yeah. Love it. So what's next for Smilie? Given now is a 2 years mark, where do you see in the gifting industry, where do you see the biggest opportunities over the next 5 years? Or what is your plan for Smilie in the next 5 years?
I think in the next 5 years, more and more consumers want to look at better, more value for money gifts, right? I think a lot of local players have started to realize that customers have so much option today, not just locally, but abroad. So many people are going to Taobao, uh, I don't know, there's this new Temu or whatever,
Yeah.
Pinduoduo, right,
Yeah.
to buy gifts today.
Mm.
Now, they are actually the biggest competitor today because no one is going to beat them in price. Then how can you beat them in terms of value in other things that's not related to price, right? For example, if you understand consumers' behavior better here, you know what customers like. You do things that customers will like. Example, packing a gift box with amazing grace, Irvings and all. That you know 25-year-old or 30-year-old would like. That Taobao will never be able to do. But if you still insist on doing things like umbrellas, then there is no way that you'll be more competitive than the Taobao shop out there. Right. So I see that in the next 5 years, more and more consumers want to do better gifting. They want to send better, nicer gifts. Right. The trend will go there. Right. Instead of the old school tall, ugly hampers. Today we go into small, maybe just a box, but you open up, you see better quality things. More personalized. So maybe I want a glass with my own name on it, my client's name on it, right, with a box of TWG. So that's where the trend is going in one part. The second part is definitely technology. I fully believe that we'll be one of the leading players to help clients, corporates automate gifting at scale. Right? I don't believe that gifting will run away. I believe that more and more companies want to see ROI of gifting, want to simplify the whole gifting experience. And the moment we can get gifting right, we already have the technology to leverage and build on it. So I see that as the next wave, how this market will go.
And how do you see the rise of AI that can, kind of push this industry even further? Or I don't know, maybe even improve the experience, yeah.
See, everybody comes to us to say, Wenhao, adopt AI, AI this, AI that.
Yeah. Yeah.
In our industry, 80% is manual work. Someone got to pack the gifts. Until the day our dear, humanoid, they call it, right? Humanoid can pack gifts cheaply. It's tough. That's one part of it. The second part of AI is definitely, as a business, we adopt AI tools to automate certain things, to improve productivity. That's for sure. Right? Just like a simple example. Today we use ChatGPT and a few other tools to make sure that a postal code matches the address of what is submitted in to prevent redelivery. Right? That's a simple AI that we use. That back then is going to be manual processes, right? Today we leverage on that. The second thing we do is how can we edit 1,000 postcards at one go with an individual different recipient's name. Back then it's manual work. Each postcard different name. Today we can do it all at one go using AI, for example. So tools we definitely use, but the end product is not so much yet using AI.
And I actually see a lot of, especially during festival period, like Mooncake Festival, a lot of SMEs and agencies. Because when I ran my own agency last time, during the festive season, we send and we always receive a lot of gift packages from our vendor partners and clients as well. And yeah, and usually the brand names have been dominated by those big players. And honestly, the gift sucks in terms of the
Of course.
packaging.
It's filled with Chupa Chups and Kit Kats, stuff that you don't eat and you also don't want to give away because it's embarrassing. Yeah, it's not cheap. It's not cheap. Right. So we have certain older folks coming to us today, especially CNY, right, to start to believe that actually I don't need tall and big hampers. I want to be different. I want my logo to be big. I don't want the gifting company's logo to be big. I want my own logo to be big. I want a gift to be quality. I want my client. You see, the thing about gifting is it's not big and all. It's meaningful gifts. And the whole gifting industries, everybody forget the word meaningful. People only remember big and tall. How to do gifting? So that's what we aim to change. To allow meaningful gifts more accessible at scale.
Okay, I think there's so much things to learn about you and your co-founder building Smilie. So imagine now I'm a aspiring founder or someone who is struggling with my own startup. Like what's one piece of advice that you give to aspiring founders or those who are struggling with their startups? One piece of advice.
I won't say one piece. If it's one piece, close down the company. No. There's always light at the end of the tunnel. Just be resourceful. Focus on what is important and not what is fluffy. That would be my advice to people. Focus on what is important, not what is fluffy. Be very critical on yourself. Most of the time, you'll figure it out. But if you want to focus on the fluffy things, you're dead from day one.
I guess really know what you are doing and ignore all the noise out there. Just focus on what you think is right.
Correct. Most people focus too much on the noise. Everybody want to build sexy things, want to go to every event, show their face. What for? There's no revenue in all these events.
And this is applicable, I believe, to not
Everyone.
just everyone, right? And not that, yeah. Have you seen some of these cases where founders they just do things that don't really matter? They focus on the wrong thing, Yeah.
I'm very scared to say certain things, and because I have too many friends that are all founders.
Oh,
Right.
No, you don't need to
But-
name, right? Like, are there a lot?
I don't need a lot. You see, there are so many founders that, example, says that they are doing businesses, right? Says they are full-time in their own business, but yet try to be a part-time LinkedIn influencer, part-time LinkedIn coach, etc. Why? If it's so easy to build your business, everybody will have killed you. And if nobody tried, means it's going to be a very tough business to execute. And if you're not even giving your 100%, how will the business even succeed, right? So if you don't even give 100% of yourself to the company, why should someone believe in you to invest in you or be your clients? Right? So it's ridiculous that I see founders trying to do so many things at one go and yet claim to be a full-time founder. Just because, being a full-time founder is not paying the right amount right now or it's not sexy right now. But if you can't go for short-term pain, then please don't be a founder, man.
This is a very, very tough but real practical advice for a lot of founders, including me as well. Really have to all in, commit to what you are building. Yeah. Because I also see many cases like this as well. Maybe because I guess the businesses they're building isn't making any money. That's why they have to, do other stuff. I don't know, just to get some money in first and we don't know.
I think it's fine to do other things to get some money in, right? But it should never distract you. The problem is a lot of people are being distracted, right? You want to do LinkedIn because you want to drive your own business. I think that's perfectly fine, right? I think that is a good thing to do, right? I do it, you do it, we all do it. But never should you ever forget that your main business, like for me, is in Smilie, right? And not to be a LinkedIn influencer. I don't care. My friends tell me, Wenhao, your life journey is pretty interesting. Why not go and do some motivation session talks and all? I said I don't care, man. It's not my business. Right? The moment I do it, I distract myself from the call.
Thanks for sharing, man. I mean, I learned so much about your journey, what Smilie does, and so much wisdom nuggets to take away. Others, to end this, right? Maybe ask two questions. Where can people find you online if they want to follow up with you on anything? Maybe just a questions or just to DM you.
You can find me on LinkedIn. LinkedIn, you just search for me, Dong Wenhao. I think I'm one of the only Dong Wenhaos in Singapore, probably. Right. Yeah.
And how can our listeners be useful to you?
I think one of the markets that we really want to strengthen, right, is one is in the financial advisory market, and second is in the fast-growing startups, right, or companies that we should grow. Right. I want them to see and believe that gifting is a crucial part in their growing journey, and let us be there to support them to grow. Right, we have a certain client during Chinese New Year. They send out 200-300 different gift boxes to just clienteles, not even clienteles, just prospects that's in the database. Right, they might not have spoken or they have spoken to send out to them, and out of there, 10% got back to them to book calls with them. So instead of doing a cold outreach, this is actually a way to do cold outreach using gifting, right? And he told me one deal is $100,000. What is a 10-15K budget, man?
Yeah.
Right? So a lot of people still don't understand that gifting can be done this way.
Love it. When you mention fast-growing startups, do you mean Series A and above?
I believe anyone that's figured out where the market is,
Okay.
right, where the clientele is, and we should
Right.
expand aggressively. Right, relationship is key in Southeast Asia. Without relationship, it's very hard to do sales. Gifting is the cheapest way to build and start this relationship. Right? I want clients to come to us to say, look, at $30 a box of gift, $40 a box of gift, I can sell out to 100 customers, and the ROI can be actually positive. And let us help you to kickstart that journey.
Is property agent also part of your,
They are. It's just that the clienteles are not that big compared to other industries. Yeah.
Are you mainly in Singapore now or in different?
We do Malaysia. We've done Indonesia, Thailand,
Got it.
even Hong
as in
Kong actually. Yeah.
you also deliver to other like overseas countries?
Of course.
Okay. Right. Well, thanks so much for sharing, man. Really appreciate that. I hope you
Appreciate
all
your time also
find
today.
Thanks. I hope you all find Wenhao sharing as insightful as I do here. Thanks so much, Wenhao. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone.